So empathy may sound like it means, oh, cuddle people. That's not to me what empathy means. Empathy means meeting people where they are, including your own consumers. Understand where they are, because once you do, you can help position them in the right places. You can help everybody grow the right way. You can help synchronize all of your teams together. That's what it is.
Entrepreneurs, get ready because we're bringing on the former founder and current founder of a business, but she's got a lot of expertise to add. Former CEO of a billion, yes, with a B dollar company, entrepreneur, board advisor. She's got an awesome book, The Unexpected CEO. But what she does is truly remarkable. She scaled businesses to nearly $1 billion in system-wide sales, led cultural transformation, and executed a successful private equity sale. As I mentioned, awesome book, a lot of fun stuff to share. We'll go behind the scenes at that scaling of a $1 billion company, strategies for redefining problems, unlocking business growth, and lessons on why empathy and integrity are not soft skills, but competitive advantages. So with that, Shirin, I want to welcome you here to That Entrepreneur Show.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. What a great introduction. I loved it.
And thank you so much. And we have her streaming from California to me down in Florida. And everyone, I'd love to welcome you back to another show right here on That Entrepreneur Show. I'd love to thank you for tuning in to keep this show a top 2.5% global show. We can't do it without you and the amazing guests like we have today. And as I mentioned, she's got a lot of experience succeeding after she was born in Iran. Arriving in the U.S. as a young teen with little more than hope, she began to build her career through resilience, authenticity, and compassion, and she's going to share her hard-won insights on leadership, going through adversity. But when you got here, right, you grew up, you graduated high school, you're moving on. Why did you think entrepreneurship was the spot for you?
What a good question. First of all, thanks for having me. Secondly, I got here not so much by my choice. There was so much chaos in Iran. I had been arrested a couple of times. So my parents decided that really the best thing for me to do was to leave. So I left everything behind, including parents, siblings, friends, and found myself at 17 years old with little money in Istanbul, Turkey, not the best neighborhood. And at some point, there was a fork in the road in my life, and I had a choice to make. I chose to follow hope. I thought maybe the best way out of the darkness and the challenges that I had was to reach for something higher. So even then, I knew that I was going to someday make it to the United States and someday I'd be successful. When I finally found my way to the United States, I started working at a gas station as a cashier because that's all thought I could do. I was young. I didn't have any money, no parents, no guidance. And I sat behind a bulletproof glass at that gas station as a cashier. I had the worst shift. And I remember vividly one Christmas day sitting at that desk and thinking, feeling sorry for myself. I thought I had very little hope. I had nowhere to go. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Gradually, though, again, as the sun came up, I really reflected on maybe I was unfortunate to be sitting there, but maybe a change of perspective is needed. So I did. I changed my perspective and said, how about I look at this as a fortunate turn of events? And how about I can build my life from here on? And then I decided, and you may laugh at this because people did at the time, I would say, I'm going to run a big company someday. As a cashier at a gas station behind bulletproof glass with really no reason to think that way other than I thought I could. And that is when I knew that became my North Star in such a way that all decisions that I made from that point on, I always had that vision, that North Star as my guiding light. That is how entrepreneurship was born. I didn't think I was going to necessarily go through corporations to get there. I knew somehow I had to build my way to running a big company.
Well, congratulations on how far you've come. It's truly inspirational. So as you move beyond that cashier position, you mentioned you stopped in corporate. You didn't just stop in corporate. You really helped make incredible contributions. What were some of the bigger lessons learned or advice you received in corporate that you were able to carry over into your first business? And that's how we'll segue.
Yes. So I did start my career with wonderful EY, Ernst & Young, and loved it, absolutely enjoyed learning a lot. And from there, at some point, I realized that because someday I was going to run a big company, I also wanted to learn operations. So it was one thing to learn the business of audit. It's another to really get my hands dirty in operations. And so I intentionally left, which was very, very, very difficult to do for someone with my background to have finally landed at such an amazing company. To make that decision is really, really difficult. But I did. And I ended up at a mortgage bank where I was in charge of loan servicing, learned a lot about operations. There came a point in time when the CFO was going to leave and he thought I would be a good fit as a CFO. Then opted in. I asked to become a CFO from the CEO and I was given that position. I learned more about operations and there came a point where we sold that mortgage bank and I had another decision to make. Do I keep going down this path of wanting to become a CFO of another company or do I finally go out on my own? And again, I decided to go out on my own. So it's a long way of saying what I learned along the way was making decisions and choices that were consistent with my own vision was what really got me on the right path. Of course, the path to where I wanted to go would be zigzagging. Nobody can predict how you're going to land there. But the idea of pursuing it consistently and persistently was what I learned along the way. It did pay off to make those seemingly unusual decisions.
And you did a great job at it. And it's exciting to hear how you took that leap of faith. If there's any aspiring entrepreneurs out there today, let's use today as an example because she came so far going through this adversity. And then you mentioned you left for entrepreneurship. Let's talk about your first experience now in entrepreneurship.
When I went out on my own, I wasn't exactly sure how I would land. And I thought, okay, well, I have the skills that I have, which are I've been a chief financial officer. I understood accounting. I understood operations. And I thought, how about I become what is today known as the fractional CFO, but it wasn't a thing then. It wasn't something people talked about. So I'm like, well, there are companies that can use my services. And why don't I make it myself available to not necessarily work full time, but be able to bring my experience, expertise to them? That's how it all started. And of course, I had never done it before. As anybody listening to this knows, if you're an entrepreneur by definition, you haven't done things on your own before. You're not born knowing all of that and how to go about it. So I used the network that I had. I cast a wide net. And along the way, of course, I started getting more and more clients. The one very important factor in continuing to grow, and I'll tell you where I landed at the end of this process, is throughout, the common thread throughout all of my work, including being on my own, was I was very keen on doing good work. So I have a motto that says doing well by doing good. And the good means good by others, good by our communities, but also means doing really, really good work. Where if you have a product, make sure that it's really, really good. If you're bringing consulting services, make sure you're really, really on spot with what you do. And I think it was because of that I was able to attract even more clients and so on. In that process, I met a company. I thought I was only going to work with them for some time, but that's where I stayed for 20 years and grew my entrepreneurial muscles.
Amazing. And it's important to keep your end goal in mind. It doesn't matter how you get there. It may not be the path you thought you would take to get there, but if you stay focused, determined, and consistent, a lot of great things can happen. And as she's giving a lot back today, she felt the need and the desire to put out an amazing book where she judged us that The Unexpected CEO. Now, first, did you ever think as a young kid that you would grow up to be a published author?
What? That's an amazing question. Because I hadn't remembered this until recently. When I was in fourth grade, my teacher went around the classroom and said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And in Iran of then, especially I went to a special academically a rigorous school, everybody talked about engineering and blah, blah, sciences and so on. And I was very, very good at math. But I immediately says, I'm going to be an author. But, life took its course. Everything happened the way it happened. It wasn't until Forbes approached me in 2019, and I thought they were going to write about the company. Well, when they interviewed me, they said, well, there is a story here. And then they did a video of me, which was on Forbes.com. That got my story out. What I learned ever since I stepped down, sold the company and stepped down, and I've been speaking everywhere I was invited to really, really good conferences. They would say, Shirin, talk about how you operated with private equity. How did you increase the value of enterprise? But make sure you throw in your story. So I was like, there is something there. And in 2021, my son and daughter sat me down and said, Mom, you've got to write your book. And it wasn't until I realized that maybe by really thinking through lessons learned along the way to help others that it would be worth writing. So I sat down in the family room for 2 years and wrote. And the way I wrote was sharing memories and stories that helped me understand the foundational principles in building, growing, accomplishing, and living your vision. So my idea was, let's share those because they're like laws of gravity. There are some principles that apply across the board. Let's share those to help others. Since I've stepped down as now I've operated as board director, advisor, investor, I've used these principles and they work. They do work. My son started his company not too long ago, and I've been their advisor and an unpaid intern for the record. He just got last year Forbes 30 under 30. I'm telling you, these principles work.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, what was the most challenging part of writing the book that maybe you didn't anticipate?
Oh, I think writing a book is both divine and daunting. In it's divine because it gave me a chance to really reflect and extract from my experiences lessons that helped me. And I weaved it through how I used it later on in CEO years. So in that sense, it was divine. But daunting is that by the same token, you'd have to look in the mirror and reflect on your own life. And it's been a bit of a, challenging life. So it was hard to do for sure. I had
Thank
to
you.
take breaks. Let's put it
Yes,
this way.
for sure. And every book is a book within the book I found that I've written. There's always a story behind how each one went out and what you would do different, how you streamline that process. Do you see another one
Yeah.
coming out?
Yeah, I think based on the feedback I'm getting, I'm like, whoa, there's one more here.
All right. Everyone, be on the lookout. Be sure to stick around to the end of the show. We'll get her contact info, where to find the book. But I kicked off the show with saying a teaser in lessons on why empathy and integrity aren't soft skills, but competitive advantages. And I certainly agree. I would love to dive in on your take.
Yes. When I brought in private equity, which is, as everybody knows, is not easy to do of size, everybody else was bought out. So imagine I'm at the time was running a fairly good sized company and I was the CEO, CIO, CMO, CFO, and COO. All in one. So all the C bench was bought out. And this is a franchise system. So there are complexities around that. You would think the first, and obviously private equity and the expectations for growth, rightfully so. So you would think the first thing I do is to really focus on bottom line or generating more sales. But I took a couple of steps back and I said, let's listen. Let's go around the company and listen to our teams, listen to executives, listen to consumers and franchisees and partners. And the listening was about opening up the floor for them to share with us what opportunities they thought lied within the organization. It was because of those lessons, and not only just listens, the fact that I listened, we were able to bring everybody into focus. Everybody ended up rowing in the same direction because they felt like they were a part of it. It wasn't just the vision of the company or the essence of the company or the new brand bios that we brought on board weren't things that we dictated to them. They participated in it. So they as well owned it. This is why we were able to double the size of a company that was already mature in a short 4 years. In an industry which was growing single digits, be able to grow it by 70% in 4 years. People have asked me how, but the how isn't so much technical. It's about making sure that everybody's understood, everybody's in the right seats. So empathy may sound like it means, oh, cuddle people. That's not to me what empathy means. Empathy means meeting people where they are, including your own consumers. Understand where they are, because once you do, you can help position them in the right places. You can help everybody grow the right way. You can help synchronize all of your teams together. That's what it is. One last thing about empathy. We renegotiated all contracts. How do you negotiate with people unless you understand where they're coming from? Empathy gives you that opportunity. If you know where they're coming from, then you can come up with points where you can meet. And I think that was definitely another strength of the company and our growth.
I love that. So I'm seeing you're bringing this to the company values for the companies you're a part of.
Yes.
I love that. And I think it's so important in a world of a lot of the opposite of that to bring that. And you can see it make all the difference. We've heard how she's grew and grew these companies and even the book, which is great. So you're going to have to keep me in the loop if and when, I should say, the next book is getting ready to come out. I mean, just truly, truly
Yeah.
remarkable. So what is your main jam right now? What are we working on now?
I am very, very keen on impact. And by impact, I mean all of those years and lessons that I've learned. I'm using them to help others with this notion that the reason why I was able to go from gas station cashier to billion-dollar CEO with a name like Shirin Behzadi, which is not one you would normally guess would be there in those seats, and I was able to bring in private equity. I've been really involved with, basically, I've raised $950 million in private equity. I understand that space. The reason why I could do all of this is that I thought I could. So my message to people, especially entrepreneurs, is do have that vision and reach it because you can build, grow, accomplish, and live your vision. Along the way, your best friend and your superpower is your adversity. We are living in a world with challenge and change, with monumental changes in the marketplace. And oftentimes we may feel defeated. What I want to say is that you will read in The Unexpected CEO, every time there was substantial growth in my life, professionally, personally, with the companies, it always came as a result of adversity. So adversity is your superpower. Use it the right way. Those are the messages that I'm getting out and really wanting to bring it to the forefront for people to have hope and understand that your circumstance is not your destiny.
Absolutely love that. And I feel the same way with my story and my accident, where we can either sit and sulk, crying, why me, or we can move forward, live a brighter day, and also impact, as you say, tons of people along the way. So now it's time for a wonderful question because I learned more about each guest. If you could pick any entrepreneur, dead or alive, to pick their brain, who are we choosing and why?
Wow. A single one would be interesting because I'm thinking of a list. One, I do pick the brain of my son, Sam Madani. I love that. And it's an interesting experience to be a part of. But I read Rick Rubin's book not too long ago, and I thought his points were spot on fantastic. So I would say Rick.
All right, let's delve deeper. Where would the meeting go down if you could pick the meeting location too?
Oh, the meeting location. You know what? Isn't he in LA? So I would go to LA. I'm not too far.
Oh,
And when I arrived in the United States, I landed at LAX. So there you go. There's something there.
wow. Well, again, congratulations on how far you've come, and thank you for inspiring our audience where they may have goals of building $1 million companies, and now you've inspired us all to shoot for the bees. Your hard-won insights on everything you shared are truly admirable, from leadership to adversity. Now, I see the book, but where can everybody else find the book? Where can everybody find you online?
Yes, thank you. The book is called The Unexpected CEO, and it's everywhere, ready to be ordered. My website is my name, which I hope to put in the show notes because I don't think that people can spell it, ShirinBehzadi.com. And on all the different social channels, my name, Shirin Behzadi.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't stop to give a shout out to your son's new company, right? He just started a company last year. Let's give a shout out to
Yes.
him and where we can find it.
Yes, it's Bomani Cold Buzz. It's a skinny and vanilla espresso martini in a can.
Interesting. Very cool concept. I would look forward to
Yes,
learning that one day. But first,
yes.
I have to thank you so much for taking the time to join me today a few hours earlier in the day, and you made it happen. I had a great time learning your story. I really appreciate the insights you gave to our audience and everyone. You've got a brand new book out there in the queue. What should we look for first? Do you have a, should we go to the website first, the book first, or say someone really wants to get to know you? Where should their first stop be?
Oh, I would say if they want to just type in the unexpected CEO, that's probably easier. That way they can get the book. But also, my website has all of the links,
Oh, perfect.
people may be looking for. I also want to say thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much.
This book is a book that I really wish I had as I was growing up through the ranks. It's an inspirational book, but it's also instructional. It's a roadmap. And I wish, again, as we were going through trials and tribulations of building a company and growing a company, that we had access to podcasts like this. We didn't. So this is very helpful. Thank you.
I really appreciate the kind words, and everyone, I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure to subscribe to stay current with all of our amazing entrepreneurs. My name is Vincent A. Lanci. We're brought to you by ComingAlivePodcastProduction.com. And I see it in the corner now as we're going, the skinny espresso martinis. Is that your son's
Yeah,
brand?
it's right there. Yeah.
That's in-
Bomani. Yeah.
all right, everyone. So not only do you have another entrepreneur for your network and a new book, but if you're in the espresso martini game, that looks like a great thing to try. So thank you
Yeah.
so much again.
Thank you.